Fantastic. Well, welcome everyone. Today is judges training. We are so happy to have everybody here today. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join me, Scott Brown, the District 11 Program Quality Director, as we explore the first of what will be a multitude of recordings about contest season. We're quickly coming up upon contest season. We want to start getting some information out so everybody has the necessary tools and resources they need to have successful club contests, area contests, division contests, and district contests. This is the first of those, and we are starting with judges training. And I'm starting there for a specific reason, because as a former competitor, I have found that without quality judges, we lose credibility. Contestants talk to each other, they talk to their clubs, especially as they move up through the ranks. And when there is a perceived slight through the contest that could have been avoided by having judges that understood the process a little bit better, understood the changes that had happened over the previous year, and delivered a contest in what everyone felt was a fair manner, without that, our reputation is diminished. So the goal is to start off by talking about how we're going to work with judges and how to find judges and that whole process, and then talk about a bunch of the changes that have happened over the past couple of years for contests that we're gonna have to know about as we have contests this year in District 11. Yes, no matter what, we are having contests this year in District 11. Before I start sharing my slides, a couple things out of the way first. What contests are we going to have? We will have the International Speech Contest, as we do every year, and the secondary contest this year will be speech evaluations. And I know that's a little bit unusual because we are doing this online. Toastmasters International has said that every area contest, division contest, and district contest throughout the entire organization needs to be conducted online. They don't say it has to be done on Zoom, although we will do ours on Zoom, but they all have to be done virtually via some online service. We can't do any of those in person. And the goal is, of course, to try to keep folks separated as much as possible, to not be the cause of another outbreak somewhere out there, and to keep people as safe as possible. So that is why we are doing these online this year. We are starting early to try to work out some of the kinks that might be in the system that we have not explored yet and that we may not necessarily understand yet. But we want to start getting the information out so everyone can start preparing and we can start using this as a working model for how we can deliver the best contest possible. That's why we're starting here, and that's what today's training is all about. It is about contest season and how to hold speech contests, most notably starting with our one slideshow from beginning. There we go. Most notably starting with how we start with judges. So that's where we're starting today. So first I want to talk a little bit about contest planning and what it takes for success. First thing we're going to have to do is to figure out dates and venues. Now by venues, because we are having all of our area contests, division contests, and district contests online, that's going to require some scheduling. The district has secured a enterprise Zoom account, meaning that we can schedule a larger quantity of people. We don't get restricted by the 100 members that we get restricted to with some personal accounts. The enterprise account also allows us to do more breakout rooms and just gives us some more functionality than what we would have just on normal accounts. But because of that, we're gonna have to schedule these things in advance. The finals, the district contests, are going to be April 23rd and 24th. It's a Friday and Saturday, April 23rd and 24th. Those dates are on the district calendar. And the dates for all of when you have to have club contests, when you have to have area contests, when you have to have division contests, all of those are also on the district calendar, but it all starts on January 1st. So we have a couple of months to ramp up to get ready for this. I encourage you to take a look at the calendars and start requesting Zoom meeting dates from the admin manager, who's Candace, that she is certainly able to get those to you pretty quickly. She does a fantastic job of that. Pick your dates, get the Zoom secured so that we don't have multiple people trying to have them at the same time. Also start looking for functionaries and contest chairs and contest masters and judges and tie-breaking judges and all those other folks that we need to be able to do this. We know that membership has waned a little bit in the past year because not everyone signed up to do Toastmasters virtually. Many people wanted to do Toastmasters in person. I would love to do Toastmasters in person, but unfortunately that's not an option right now. So we need to ensure that the folks that we are tapping to help us with our contest are comfortable with this format. While they may be fantastic judges or functionaries for an in-person format, they may not want to do this format. So make sure that they know ahead of time that this is going to be virtual contest season for area, division, and district contests. And then start mentoring those role players, figuring out the scripts and doing briefings. The more that we can practice this ahead of time, the better. I encourage everyone that if you can have some sort of meeting where you have a small contest that you can work out some of the kinks for your area, for your division, do so. We are going to have a district-wide pre-contest, I guess you would call it, that we're going to have some folks judging speeches during Fall Education Week. And it's really just to try to work out some of the kinks so we can play with this and figure out how this works, how it doesn't work, and start to get some best practices down and documented so that everybody's life is a little bit easier through this process. The more we practice, the better we will get, like everything else that we do in life. The officials for the contest are the same as what they are for every year. Contest chairs. They're going to select the chief judge, contest master, but first we need to do is to figure out who's going to chair our contests. For area directors, if you do not want to chair a contest, you don't have to be the actual chair for your contest. And with division directors, you don't have to be the actual chair. You're responsible for ensuring the contest goes off and is deemed to be fair and legal within the Toastmasters rules, but you can certainly have somebody else be the chair and be the contest master and be a chief judge. You don't need to do those roles. You just need to find people to do those roles. So start by finding chief judges and contest masters to help organize and run the contest and the contest chairs. The contest chair is going to be the one to ensure that all contestants are briefed. This is going to have to happen before we get to the contest this year. So we usually went into some sort of a breakout room and figured that out. If you went to the international convention this year, you noticed that they didn't brief the contestants at the actual contest. They got briefed hours before. We're going to do the same thing. All contestants can be briefed on a separate Zoom call before any of this actually happens. Then we're going to conduct a draw for speaking order. There are a couple of different ways that I've seen that work in a virtual setting. One of them seems to be just having the contest master pick numbers out of a hat. One can be picking cards. If you put up a bunch of cards on a screen and have the contestant pick which card they want and using that. Come up with something that's fun and that talks to you as a person that makes sense for how you want to draw a speaking order, but we still need to draw for speaking order for any contest that we're going to have, although we can't physically be there to have a contestant physically reach into a hat to draw a number out of a hat. That's not going to be how it works this year, unfortunately. If there's a randomizer program, that would be great to be able to use also. I don't know of one out there, but I know they exist. Because we're doing speech evaluation contests, we should be reaching out to find test speakers. Since every club should theoretically be doing an evaluation contest, and every area should be doing an evaluation contest, we're going to need a bunch of test speakers. It gives an opportunity for individuals to come and speak. There are some requirements this year for what those test speeches should be. They should either be, according to TI, they should either be a speech that fits the contest format or a speech that fits within a Pathways project. So it shouldn't just be a rambling 10-minute diatribe of somebody just speaking randomly, but they should fit a format of either a contest speech or something that fulfills a project within Pathways. But start looking now to whom you might get to be a test speaker. Remember, there are some folks that are not eligible to compete. Anybody serving in a district office, so area directors, division directors, trio members, all those folks are not eligible to compete. If you're not eligible to compete, you are eligible to deliver a test speech. And because we don't have to travel for contests this year outside of our own homes, we can absolutely go speak wherever in the state or wherever in the district the timing fits for us. So it's not so much a matter of I can't get to Evansville because it's 3.5 hours away from me. It's a matter of what time's the Evansville meeting because I can sit in my office and still deliver a test speech. So it does open up the pool of speakers a little bit, but request early because there are going to be a lot of speakers out there for the speech evaluation contest. If you are competing in one of the contests this year, so if you're a competitor in the international speech competition, you cannot be a test speaker this year. That is one of the changes that TI has made. So you cannot be a test speaker if you're also competing in a contest this year. They have to be separate people. Contest officials, the chief judges are going to brief the voting judges. Now it's important to remember that the voting judges are divided into two categories. There is the regular voting judges and the tie-breaking judge. Tie-breaking judge is somebody separate from the actual voting judges. One person. If you're looking at regular contests, you're looking at about 5 judges. If you're looking at the area division contest, you're looking at probably close to 7, or 1 from each area, or the district level, 1 from each division. So you're looking 5 to 7 people for your judges, and one of them needs to be a tiebreaker who doesn't vote the same. Tally counters. There will be breakout rooms for folks to go and count tallies this year to be able to put that together. I would recommend that there is a secondary communication form besides just Zoom to be able to communicate back and forth with the tally counters. I'd recommend doing FaceTime or some sort of text string so that as they are counting, as they are completing their own tallies, that they can communicate back and forth without risking jumping back into the actual meeting and spilling the beans before we need to, or asking questions that the rest of the room really doesn't need to know. So have a secondary set of communication out there, whether it be a text string, whether it be some sort of other video chat that's going on, a lot of different options out there, but some sort of secondary communication. And also, of course, timers. We will definitely need timers. Contest timelines. January through April. International Speech Contest Finals are Saturday, April 24th. The Speech Evaluation Contest Finals are Friday, April 23rd. And those are during the Spring Convention week. We're having a full week of a Spring Convention this year instead of just a single day. Ideally, it'd be nice to have all the contests held on different days. The reason for that is because we're doing the evaluation this year, the evaluation contest is going to go a little bit longer than what you would normally do. And we'll get into what that's going to look like and how I think that should probably work out as we work through this today a little bit. But the evaluation contest will be a longer contest than what it has been in the past. And it really has to do with that 5 minutes of silence that every individual gets to be able to make notes and then to not give anyone an unfair advantage, because we can't physically go to someone's house and collect their notes from them. That would be very creepy and weird to have random Toastmasters showing up at people's homes to take their notes off of them for 5 minutes before they get back onto a Zoom call. So there's a way to do it electronically, but it's going to make the contest a little bit longer. Select dates for your club, area, and division contests 2 months before the contest starts. So if we're starting January 1st, that really means that around beginning of October, we should start looking for contest chairs, chief judges, contest masters, and start figuring out those folks that are going to run the contest. A month before the contest, start selecting your teams, all of your functionaries, and prepare for last minute cancellations because it's going to happen. Fortunately though, because we are online, it gives you a little bit of a broader pool of people to be able to choose from to help you out during contest season. The 2 weeks before the contest, conduct some sort of practice contest. Even if it's just one speech or one evaluation, work through the technology so on the day of the contest you know how it works and it's not the first time you're playing with breakout rooms. It's not the first time you're trying to mute somebody or to use secondary communication methods. Have a practice run. It's okay to mess that practice run up. We want to mess that up instead of messing up the actual contest itself. A week before the contest, get all the photocopies ready. So I'll print out all those documents that we need. I'm not going to be sending out packets of documents this year. So in previous years, Meg was so kind to be able to print out all of the documents that we needed, all of the judging forms and all of that. She gave them to area directors and division directors. And when they went to clubs, they handed them out to people. It worked incredibly smoothly. But we don't go and see people this year. So I'm not going to be printing them out. Instead, everyone's going to be getting an email with the forms to be able to print out themselves. So expect the emails to come out probably during, I would say during December, to beginning of December, to start preparing for that. But don't expect actually me to mail you a bunch of photocopies, because that just seems silly. On the week before the contest, make sure that all of the kits, all of your chief judge kits, your contest chair kits, your judging kits, all that sort of thing are prepared and they're ready to go. Now, one nice thing about doing this online, it is way easier for judges to be inconspicuous. I always found it odd when I competed that you would say the judges are anonymous. Yet you look around the room and there were 5 people who normally didn't come to meetings, or who normally weren't around that area, who had packets and clipboards just randomly sitting around the room, but it was anonymous and inconspicuous. Electronically, if we're doing this online, they are really anonymous and inconspicuous because it looked like everybody else. There's no reason for anybody to be able to know who the judges are right now. So that's an advantage for doing this online as opposed to doing it in person. I think that'll actually help the judging a little bit here as well. Need to check contest eligibility. So prior to the club, to area division district contest, there is a way to be able to check eligibility. Go into Toastmasters.org, speech contest eligibility checker. It's a link right there. When I post this, you'll be able to just tap on that and be able to go there to check out eligibility. There are some eligibility changes this year for who can be eligible to compete. And here's the biggest one. We know that we are now just a pathways organization. The legacy program has expired for us. However, there are folks out there that were members before Pathways was launched and may not have gone through many Pathways levels because they were still working through the legacy program. Oh my goodness. And it figures if somebody comes to the door while I'm doing this. If somebody, Pepper, stop. If somebody was a member before the Pathways launch date, they have to have completed the 6 speeches or in the CC, or they can complete a level 1 and level 2 in Pathways. Stop. The reason why that's significant, there are some members that have just now transitioned over into Pathways. If they kept through Legacy through the end of June while they were still trying to earn DTMs or still earning educational programs for their clubs, and they're just now starting to get into Pathways, they may not have had enough time to get through 2 levels. So if you're somebody who was a member prior to the Region Pathways launch date a couple of years ago, if they did 6 speeches in the CC, they'll qualify. Or they can do level 1 and level 2 within Pathways. So on or after the region's launch date is important. I'll have to find that date for you. I don't know because I wasn't here at that point. So I don't know the actual launch date. I do know that you launched before the region that I was in. So it's somewhere during mid-2018, I believe, 2017, somewhere around there. Chief Judges training. What are you looking for in a chief judge? A couple of big things. They want them to be experienced, knowledgeable, organized, decisive, and fair. And here's where we get into a story. So I have had, as a former district champion, I've had 3 very bad experiences in contests, which is why this is so near and dear to my heart. Experience number 1, 2016, made it to the division finals. And in the international speech finals, one of the competitors gave a speech about his dog and about who saved whom. He brought his dog to the contest, had his dog in a cage underneath his chair, and as I spoke, his dog barked for 5 of the 7 minutes that I spoke. I had to speak over a barking dog. Now, there's nothing specifically in the rules that say you can't have a dog barking the entire time of somebody's speech, but there are rules about distractions. So you need to have a chief judge that's able to manage that process, to be able to make a quick decision, to be able to create a level playing field for everyone speaking. Having somebody do something that is either purposeful or just helpful in giving them a competitive advantage, like bringing a dog to a contest, is something that the chief judge should be able to work on. Number two bad issue, bad experience I had. Same person I was competing against in an area contest when I moved back to Florida in 2018. He gave my speech. I had gone out and practiced my speech at a bunch of clubs. One of his mentors was at one of those clubs, recorded it, gave it to him. He drew number one slot. I drew number two slot. He gave my speech almost verbatim before I went up to speak. A chief judge who is knowledgeable and experienced and decisive should be able to look at that and say, wait a minute, we've heard this before from someone else. Because the speech I'd given previously, they should be able to ensure that there's a level playing field and disqualify the right person. Nothing was done in that situation. I ended up giving a pocket speech for an area contest because of it. So you want to make sure that those are two things that you really look at. And the third one for a chief judge is to make sure that the folks that they are eliciting to judge are themselves going to be fair and knowledgeable and organized and decisive, and don't have predetermined criteria that are outside of what TI asks for. For instance, the third issue that I had, went and spoke at a division contest. I don't know if it was a flippant comment or if it was serious, but as we were walking out, one of the judges said, we don't vote for people we don't know. So we knew who was going to win before the contest started. That doesn't mean that it was actually a contest. So what's important for the chief judge here, why I tell you this, there are a lot of things that happen in contests when people are chasing plastic trophies, that instead of learning from the journey, they're trying just to earn the plastic trophy. The chief judge needs to be on top of all of those things that go wrong and creates a feeling of inequity, that there's not a level playing field, because then that goes and that seeps through the areas, that seeps through the divisions, that seeps through the districts, and folks no longer feel that it is an equitable and fair playing field, and their view of Toastmasters as a whole declines. That's why this is so important to be able to understand the rule book and understand what you can and cannot do. I will be sending out rule books as well in the next, probably later on this afternoon. I have them saved. I'll be sending out an email with a bunch of attachments, including the rule books for this year. So before the contest, the chief judge should check the eligibility on voting and tie-breaking judges, make sure that they are eligible judges as well. If you are doing a area contest or a division contest, area contest, you should have somebody from each club within your area. Division contest, you should have somebody from each area within your contest. District has to have somebody from each division within the contest. Preferably, shouldn't be somebody from the same club as somebody who's competing. A district cannot be, a division, it cannot be. It's really very difficult at a club level contest to not have judges from the same club. That's how a lot of clubs do their contest. That's okay. But once you get to division and higher, you shouldn't be having judges from the same clubs as which you have contestants. There should be somebody different. Know that a lot of contestants do belong to multiple clubs though. So you're gonna have to know which clubs they belong to and to ensure that there's not that conflict out there. Chief Judge should also make sure that they've downloaded and printed all the relevant documents from the D11 website and the TI website. So everything is done beforehand. We're not scrambling the morning of the contest to figure out how to get all that stuff together. And within their forms, you have the briefing scripts, the ballots, the tie-breaking ballots, the eligibility certificates, the timers and tally sheets, and the result announcements and reporting forms. Make sure all this stuff is done beforehand so that the judge can help get through that. During the contest, couple things that need to happen. Judges make sure that everybody's been briefed. Speakings, especially when it comes this year to the speaking area. The speaking area is your screen. We can determine if it's okay for somebody to leave the screen or not. If you watch the international finals this year, the gentleman that won the finals did a magnificent job of using his screen as part of his speech, using that small space as part of his speech. It depends upon how somebody wants to use that area. But we will need to define that for every contest, every club, every area, every division, and the district. We'll need to define exactly what the speaking area is. People don't get disqualified, but they can't have points deducted from leaving the speaking area. Enjoy the judges remain anonymous and impartial. Again, that impartiality is huge. As somebody who's been on the other side of that, I cannot tell you how passionate I am about having impartial and anonymous judges. Ensure all ballots and timers, everything is recorded, and make sure that the chief judge is also going to determine disqualifications. There are a couple things that disqualify people this year, and we'll get into some of the changes here towards the end of this presentation. And then oversee the tabulation of the winners and deal with protests. Very big. Only a couple of folks can protest. The contestants can protest, and the judges can protest. A random person from the crowd cannot protest. It's just those two groups that are able to protest. So that's what the chief judges do during the contest, before the contest, and preparing over these next couple of months. The last thing the chief judge will do is to send the notification of winners contest and advise us of any challenges and forward the winning reports on. So having said all of that, what questions do you have about what the chief judge does during the actual contest to prepare for the contest, and why that role is so incredibly important and whom to look for within that? Dave, I see you coming back onto camera.
I don't necessarily have a question. Well, maybe I do.
Okay.
So the speaking area, it's like right now, all of us are shoulders up.
Correct.
If I put my computer 6 feet away from me so you could see down to my ankles,
yep,
does that count as well?
Absolutely.
It's like whatever is on the screen.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And as a former contestant, I would absolutely encourage everyone to learn to speak standing from Zoom for the contests. If you look at the speeches that really resonated through the contest, through the international this year, they were all standing. There was nobody that made the finals that was sitting while they spoke. Every one of them still found a way to use body language to some extent through their speeches. So yes, have your camera set up far enough away, have you at a distance. The district is buying scrims or backgrounds for all division winners. So at the district contest, everyone will have the same background. So our winner, as they go on to the quarterfinals, will then have the ability, we'll be positioning them in a better way to hopefully move on to the semis. So yes, whatever shows up on camera, there's no regulations about how far away your camera can be. Now, if you have a huge room and you're 14 feet away, you're probably too small on that video screen. There's going to be a happy medium in there somewhere. A couple of feet definitely would work, though. Other questions? All right, moving on. Let's look at the rule book, some of the changes that happened for this year. Eligibility of contestants. This is a big one. To compete in international speech, a contestant must be a member in good standing of a club in good standing. That's a big deal this year. We are going to have a lot of clubs during contest season that are on probation. We have a ton of 8 to 12 member clubs right now, and there are a lot of clubs that are struggling to get back to that 8 members to stay in good standing. It doesn't mean that they're folding, it just means that they're not going to be in good standing for the contest. So contestants have to be a member and have to be in good standing and a club in good standing. So their home club may not be in good standing. They may need to go find a different club to join in order to compete. If the member joined before the Pathways launch date, they can do 6 speeches in the CC or level 1 and level 2 in Pathways to be eligible. If they joined on or after the Pathways launch date, they can only have completed level 1 or in level 2, 1 and level 2 in Pathways. The CC manual no longer applies to them if they joined after the Pathways launch date. So even if they were working in the legacy program they joined after the launch date, but spent 18 months working in legacy, and they did 10 speeches but haven't started Pathways, still not eligible because they joined after the launch date. So they have to have completed level 1 and level 2 in Pathways. Very important part this year for contestants.
When was the launch date?
I don't know the actual launch date, Richard. I have to find that out because I wasn't here when it happened. It was roughly 2.5 years ago here because this region launched 6 months before my region did. And we were a May launch, so I'm thinking that you were November of 2017 is my guess. But I'll have to find the specific date and I'll send out to everybody an email. Off the top, that's my guess is when it was, but I don't know for sure.
Sounds about right. Maybe January of 2018.
Okay.
It was pretty close.
So somewhere in that, yeah, somewhere in that winter. I don't know. Yeah, we'll figure out the specific date, because we need to have the actual date, not just, well, it was January, because folks joined in January too. So we'll figure that out for you. Judges. A judge must have completed a minimum of 6 projects in the Competent Communication Manual or levels 1 and 2 under Pathways. They have the same requirements that speakers do. Contestants, chairs, chief judges, voting judges, tie-breaking judges, timers, counters, sergeant arms, and test speakers may not compete in the contest in which they're serving in any of these roles. That's a huge one. That is a little bit different than what has been done in the past. It used to just be in that individual contest, but now it is if you are a contestant in the international speech contest, in the whole international speech contest, you can't be a timer, or you can't be a sergeant at arms at a club level or an area level for somebody else. So that right there is going to limit the pool of our helpers a little bit, limit the pool of our functionaries. If you're competing, you cannot be helping in that same contest. The difference is, so say you have somebody who's competing in international, but is not competing in speech evaluation. They can then help in speech evaluation, because it's a contest in which they are not competing. So if you have one, or if you have someone's competing in just one, they can help the other. They just can't be helping the one in which they're actually competing. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? I see Jerry shaking his head. We're going to go with that as a yes for everybody.
So
Yes.
I guess I do have a question. So if they are, this is becoming a discussion, not a presentation. So if we have like area 21, 23, 24 all having their contest,
Yep.
somebody who's from 21 and competing, they can't help in 23 or 24.
Correct.
But if we can get people from other areas to
Correct.
help.
Yes. Yes. If you break out your contest on the different days, it might make it a little bit easier also. So besides the whole Zoom issue with being able to have the Zoom meeting set up so that you can get into breakout rooms and such, it would also help you, because if you have somebody competing in one but not the other, they can go help you in that other contest on a different day. So they can't help in their own, but they can help in their own contest, but they can help in the other, in either evaluation or international, depending upon which one they're not competing in. So does that answer that, Dave? Does that make sense?
And at division level, then as long as they're not a contestant, they're fair game.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Once they've lost, they're fair game. If they've competed and lost, they're fine. They're no longer a contestant. All right, contestants. This is another one that we need to be aware of, because we're having a longer conference this year online. Contestants may not present an education session, serve as a contest chair, chief judge, or chair an event committee at the event in which the contest is held. This means that if they are competing if they've made it to the finals, we can't tap them to also be a chair for any of the events, or to do anything at that final event. So it's usually not a big deal. This year, because we have more education sessions, there's more opportunities for speakers. They could end up bleeding over a little, but we have to be very aware to not give somebody a speaking slot or a chair slot if they're actually competing. Contest chairs, chief judges, voting judges, tie-breaking judges, counters, sergeant at arms may not compete in the contest which they're serving in any of these roles. Toastmasters, who are members of more than one club and who meet all eligibility requirements, are permitted to compete in the club contest in each club in which they hold paid membership. It doesn't say they can go to area or division in where they hold paid membership, but they can compete in each club where they have paid membership. Before, it just said that they were not eligible. Now it says that they are eligible. So they took out they just made it a little bit more clear. Most people who have multiple clubs competed anyway, so it's not that big of a change. But here's the one that I find really fascinating. Contestants must not reference another contestant or speech presented by another contestant from the platform at the contest in which they are competing. I've seen that done time and time again. I've seen it done in the finals where somebody talked about, I did it when I made it to the finals, even at district finals. I mentioned previous contestants to draw the audience back in to my speech. You cannot, no contestant can reference any other contestant or their speech during their actual contest speech. That is definitely different. And for some folks that have been around for a while, that is a style of speaking that is very useful outside of Toastmasters, to be able to draw in information and content from other speakers and tie it all together into a more consistent thread for whatever area or whatever company you might be speaking at, or whatever organization might have hired you to speak. You can't do it at a contest though. So you can't draw that information in. Does that make sense as to what you can't do now? We're good? Yes? All right. Protests limited to eligibility, originality, and reference to another person's speech may only be lodged by voting judges and or contestants. Have to be lodged with the chief judge and or the chair prior to the announcement of the winners and the alternates. So before they announce the winners, you can file a protest, but it has to only be the voting judges, which are the actual judges and also the tie-breaking judge, or the contestants of that contest. Before a contestant can be disqualified on the basis of originality or for referencing another contestant's speech, the contestant must be given the opportunity to respond to the voting judges. Majority of the voting judges must concur in the decision to disqualify. So it's not just that somebody says, hey, they ripped this speech off from somebody. It's that the contestant is then given the opportunity to talk about why that is or isn't true. So go back to my example. I could have given my own speech, the same speech that the other contestant gave, and then I could have filed a complaint that he ripped off my speech. That I then would have had to prove that it was my original material and not his original material. Difficult to do in the time that you have to be able to do that. But know that anytime that there is a disqualification, there is also an opportunity for a response from whomever is being disqualified. It's not just a blanket, you're out with no conversation. There is absolutely conversation for this. Does that make sense? And why that is? Yes, all right. Contest officials must not serve in more than one role for the same contest at the area when practical, division, district, region, quarterfinals, semifinals, etc. So you can't be the sergeant at arms / vote counter at division, district. Area, sometimes we don't have enough people to help for areas. So it's when practical, it's not encouraged to happen, but it can happen. But for division, district, region, all those sorts of things, they need to be separate people. For the international humorous tall tales contest, contestant chair must introduce each contestant by announcing contestant's name, speech title, and name. It's in the rule book now. It used to just be in the instructions. And for the evaluation contest, the contest chair must introduce each contestant by announcing the contestant's name twice. So for instance, if Jerry Webb was competing in the international speech contest and his speech was called Why Me, I would introduce him as Jerry Webb, Why Me? Why me, Jerry Webb? And if Dave Parnin was competing in the evaluation contest, I would introduce him as contestant number 3, Dave Parnin. Dave Parnin. And that's to help all of the judges make sure that they have the right person that they are marking their ballots for, and not giving and not mixing up whose tally forms they're using at the time. So it's a little bit different than what it was in the past, only in that they actually put it into the rules this time instead of just in the talking points. The test speech must be a contest type speech or project speech from Pathways Learning Experience. And here's the thing that we have, and this is where we're going to take a couple moments to talk about this. For the evaluation contests, after 5 minutes have elapsed, no further preparation is allowed, and all contestants must hand their copy of the evaluation contestant notes to the contest sergeant at arms. That can't happen right now. Again, we're not going to be at somebody's house. So we're not going to be actually handing anything to anyone. My current thought, and this may change in time, but my current thought, and we're going to test this out, is instead of having a live test speaker, we're going to have a recorded test speaker. So we will record a speech, put each of our contestants into a separate breakout room, go into each breakout room, play the recorded speech for one contestant at a time. So if Jerry, Dave, and Richard were the contestants, I'm going to breakout room number 1. I would play Jerry the test speech while Dave and Rich just kind of sat there waiting their turns in breakout rooms, just hanging out before they got to go. After Jerry listened to the entire speech, we would then give him 5 minutes to prepare his notes. And there would be a sergeant of arms assigned to each of the breakout rooms. So at the end of those 5 minutes, we would know that Jerry was done. Somebody would then go into Dave's room and and give him access for the link to be able to play the speech. Jerry would then, after those 5 minutes, he would then come back into the meeting room and deliver his evaluation. Second sergeant at arms that's in Dave's room at the end of the speech would give him 5 minutes to be able to complete his notes and such, and then he would come back into the main room and deliver his evaluation. So it's going to be a staggered process of you're watching a recorded speech, you have 5 minutes for your to fill out your notes, and then you go in. So everybody is basically contestant number 1. Everybody is finishing their notes and then walking in to deliver their evaluation. That way we don't have, because we can't collect the notes, but we can stagger when people get to see the speech to go in. So it's going to be a little bit of a longer contest because you're going to be playing the 7-minute speech once for every contestant, which could take a little bit longer. But I think at this point, it seems to be the best way that I've come up with and that I've heard anybody come up with to be able to make this a fair contest. So I'm sure that somebody out there is going to be thinking, as they listen to the recording of this, well, why are we doing evaluations anyway if this is going to be such a difficult contest? The reason is really simple. Evaluations are the basis of relationships. When we give great evaluation, when we invest in the ability to deliver high quality evaluations, we are investing in somebody else's growth. It helps tie us together and form a stronger community of Toastmasters. Helps us form stronger clubs, stronger areas, stronger divisions, and stronger districts. We know that right now we are disconnected. I'm sitting in my office. Jerry is sitting in his office. Dave is sitting in his basement. Richard is sitting in his office. Everybody is sitting alone in their own rooms. The evaluations have proven over time to be the best way to help connect Toastmasters together, because nobody gets angry when somebody is going to invest in your growth. Somebody's going to walk with you and help you get better. That is, if you get better at evaluations, you will get better at developing relationships. The goal for this is to give us another opportunity to help us build ties that last far beyond a contest. So we're willing to take the extra time it takes to conduct a contest to give us the opportunity to build the relationships that happen as we are going through and learning how to deliver better evaluations. So that's the why I chose this one and why we decided to deliver the evaluation contest as our second contest this year. It's really about the relationship. There may be a different way that we come up with instead of the recordings. I don't know yet. We have a couple of months to figure that out, but I am actively testing things right now. I am going to be a chief judge in a contest in Orlando, Florida, in a club that is doing evaluation contests also to help work out some of the kinks and see how this thing works. So we're working on that. There will be more information, but right now that's what it looks like that we're going to probably be doing is some sort of recorded speech format. I'm sure that there are some questions out there. What can I answer about how that would look? Nothing? Okay, ponder, and if you come up with a question, we'll ask for questions again at the end. The officials that come to each of the contests. So clubs, you're going to have a contest chair and a chief judge, same with areas, divisions, and district. Voting judges, You want 5 at club area, minimum of 5 or equal to the number for each club. Same with division is minimum of 7 or the number for each area or division. And the same with district. You're looking at tally counters, 2 for club, area, and division, 3 at district, and timers 2 all the way through. And judges should not be from the same club as the contestant for division and district. As we get forward and we end up sending somebody on to the international quarterfinals and semifinals this year, there is one other huge change that's happened, and it really came as the result of somebody who won a couple of years ago. There was one of the recent winners, I want to say 2018, a gentleman gave a speech that he had come in second internationally maybe 3 or 4 years before that. He reworked the speech and then he won with it. So he gave the same basic speech twice at the international finals, and it was allowed. There was nothing in the rules that said you couldn't do it. TI has said, when you get to the quarterfinals, the winners have to provide Toastmasters International with transcripts of their speeches so that you can ensure each of those speeches going forward are original speeches and separate from anything that's ever been done, that they are not ripoffs of what you have done previously to get to that point. It's a little bit different from what we've had before. We've never had to provide manuscripts of our written speeches previously. And there was actually a guy that won maybe 15 years ago that he actually won from an off-the-cuff speech. He didn't believe in writing his speeches. He just got up and spoke, and he still won. It was maybe 10 or 15 years ago now, so I don't know how that would work out. An amazing talent. But this is who we need for each of the contests. Those are the rules changes that we've had for this contest year compared to previous years, and kind of the very strong importance of how chief judges and why we need to be recruiting those folks now, and what type of individuals we are looking for to fill that most important role. I'm going to stop sharing right now, come back to the main room. And what questions can I answer for any of you about this? Dave.
Why do you always pick on me?
Because your camera's off and then you turn your camera on. So that's a hint that you probably have something to say.
My cat Nugget is asleep next to me. That's what I've got to say.
Okay.
There are. This is the most complete speech training I've ever heard in my life. There are things here that, like anonymous judges, I've never heard that. I've been a part of Toastmasters since 1990. It's brand new to me. Don't know if it's brand new to the process.
That's an old one. It's always been, that's what it's supposed to have been for years. It's difficult in some places though, without a doubt.
Yeah. Seems like we're always struggling to get just the minimum number of people to help. So, but
here's the nice thing that we have going for us this time though. We are no longer restricted geographically. So we can have folks come and help us, not just from outside of our geographic area, but from outside of our division, outside of our district. If you want, you could have Heritage come back and be a judge if you wanted to, or to help out, even though he lives in the UK. They can come from anywhere as long as they're not competing. So our pool, even though we're more disconnected than what we've ever been before, the pool of members that we have to pull from is significantly larger. And we should be able to find some folks out there to help us that have never had the opportunity to do this before too.
Yeah. This year it's very different, but it's also very doable.
Yeah. Yeah. Jerry, thoughts?
A question.
Sure.
I'm speculating a little bit, but I'm going to think that some of my clubs are going to say, this is all too complicated. Can we just appoint a contestant to participate in the area contest? So my question is, can they do that? Would that be all right?
Yes. Yes, they can.
Right.
Clubs can still appoint somebody to go to area. You cannot appoint someone from area to go to division though. But clubs can forego the contest and just appoint someone to move on for each of the contests.
Okay. Second comment.
I would, so with that though, so one other thing, Jerry, I would highly recommend though, even if you're going to appoint somebody, try to still do an evaluation contest at your club, even if you don't play, even if
Okay.
the person, even if it's not an official contest, because the goal is to help galvanize clubs together, and that investment in helping somebody else get incrementally better is so valuable to helping draw members together with relationships. Even if you're not going to use that as your official contest, try it out and focus on learning how to build stronger evaluations. It will help the strength of clubs.
Okay.
So sorry. So I don't want to speak over you there, but I wanted to get that in as well.
Yeah, that's all right. One other comment. I just had a lot of sympathy for what you went through in your contest. It doesn't seem correct. Maybe I'm oblivious to all these things, but I've never seen those kinds of examples. I saw one at the district level, but it was a big distraction. So I think all of these speakers were probably equally distracted because there was a wedding celebration or something next door. So all this noise going on. But I think probably everybody had that noise.
Yeah.
But boy, I can't believe the barking dog example. Blows
Yeah.
my mind.
It's there are a number of folks out there, a number of members out there that they join and stay members because of the contest. It's what brings them to Toastmasters, and the idea of winning the international finals is so powerful to them that they'll do anything to win. The goal is supposed to be in the journey, not in the reward. Like if Darren LaCroix said it many times that if you want a trophy that bad, they cost $7. Just go buy a trophy and get
Yeah.
it engraved yourself with whatever you want to call yourself. It's way easier. The process and the journey should be the most valuable parts of it. And I know that while my stories are crazy and jaw-dropping at some points, they're not by any means the craziest stories that are out there. I know somebody who is in a different country that there was bribery involved in who won the district contest. There was money that exchanged hands. So that's where the anonymous part comes in. So you can't buy judges. It's crazy. But it happens. We're trying to get ahead of it though, and make this a really good year for us. And the reason why we're buying scrims for everybody for the district level contest is because we want to make sure that everybody has the same background and is a background that isn't going to be distracting to international judges, because those recordings are the recordings they use for the quarterfinals and semifinals. We want those to be as clean as possible, so that like behind me, like I have trophies behind me and an armoire. Dave has maybe somebody's a Pepsi fan instead of a Coke fan, and they don't like that. They don't like the fact that there's a cat wandering around. There are a bazillion things that go into judges' minds to what is important and what's not important. We want to try to make those clean as possible so our representative has the best chance possible to go forward. So we'll see how that works.
Thank you.
Sure. Richard, any comments, questions out there? You good?
I'm good.
All right. I have 5 minutes to 1. If there are no more questions, no more comments, again, I thank you all very much for coming to listen to Judges Training, the first of what's going to be a series of presentations about how we can hold contests. The next set of trainings for this will be the actual how to put on the contest. So this went through a lot of the bigger picture stuff. The next one is going to be into the minutia of here's how you actually do the contest itself. And I believe that those are scheduled for, I want to say 2 weeks from now, 2 or 3 weeks from now. They're on the district calendar as well.
Were you going to do the same presentation on Thursday evening?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm going to encourage my area directors to come.
Yes, and I am posting this as soon as we are done here. As soon as it uploads to Zoom, I will go back on and post this afternoon and send the links out to all the area and division directors, and then send the links out to the clubs tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. The goal is so that even if you couldn't come to one of these, I want everyone to have the information. That's the most important part.
Great.
Well, let me hit stop recording one more time. I want to